Hello everybody, it's Michael from getfitover40.com. Today I've got a video for you. It's called, well, it's addressed, what is the best rep range to build muscle over 40? Again, I have my cheat sheet, just helps me keep on track. I get so sidetracked. You might also hear all kinds of background noise. I'm not sure how well this mic is going to separate all this noise, but there's a windstorm going on. There's wind chimes happening. There's all kinds of wind gusts. So hopefully this mic captures just me and not all that other stuff, so you're not distracted. All right, let's get into it. So building muscle at any age is a lot less dependent on reps and sets than most people think. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically, it doesn't really matter what age you are. Muscles respond to stimulation, right? They're going to respond to stimulation pretty much the same way, whether it's high reps or low reps. So in terms of age being a factor in that, that has a lot less to do than most people think about it. It really comes down to intensity. Again, how much you put in. It's not how long you're at the gym. It's not how many combined reps you do. It's not really any of that. It's not always even the weight, although I believe that the weight has to be enough that it stresses your muscles, but that weight can be completely different for everybody, right? Just depends where you are. It's really how hard you're pushing, how close to failure you're getting, how overworked you're basically training those muscles. You're overworking those muscles literally to failure and beyond. All right, there's a survey that I'm really bad with like bringing these things up. Maybe I'll try and find it somewhere, but I watched another video. I think I either watched the video or read it, and the survey basically went into quite a lot of detail on rep ranges and how they affect muscle growth. So basically they took two groups. They took a low rep group and a high rep group. The low rep group would be, say, group A, that performed about 8 to 12 reps per set. And that was their rep range. They trained to failure, so that's the key. They all trained to failure, so they went right to failure. I'm not sure if they went to failure on every single set, but they did eventually train their muscles to failure. And group B went high reps, so they were doing 25 to 30 reps, and again, they were training to failure. So now at the end of the survey, the results were literally identical. So you can gain muscle high rep or low rep. It doesn't really matter. Now, one thing, a little note I wanted to make is that both groups basically got the same results, but group B did a lot more work. So they spent a lot more time at the gym because they're doing 25 to 30 reps a set, whereas group A is doing 8 to 12. So you can see that you're going to spend a lot more time at the gym, and you're probably going to spend a lot more time in agony doing higher reps. So yes, they work, but it takes a little bit longer to get the same results. All right. Some factors people over 40 should consider when determining their optimal rep ranges. Now, when you're over 40, you got to be a little bit more concerned with, overdoing things, getting injuries, all those things. We have like injuries related to, I find that muscles recover well, they are strong and everything, but we don't have the elasticity in our muscles as much. So you can really hurt a muscle if you go too heavy and you tend to like bounce around and stuff. Like I'll find I'll rip stuff, not while I'm performing the exercise. I'll usually get a tear or a rip at the very bottom when I'm getting the stretch reflex. That's where I have to watch it. So going heavy, you can potentially injure yourself. So going heavy, getting that weight up there, especially if you use bad form or if you make a little mistake and you got a lot of weight on the bar, you could hurt yourself. So there's danger in that, especially as you get older. We're not as resilient. The other thing is high reps can injure you as well when you get older because our joints aren't up to it. Our muscles, again, they're not as elastic, they don't have the elasticity of a youthful person. Sure, they can, we can build them, we can get stronger, but we have to be careful with our joints, we have to be careful with our muscles, and going low rep, heavy, or high rep with lots and lots of reps can cause injuries, especially if you have an elbow situation going on or a knee situation going on. If you're going to be performing tons and tons of reps, you're just going to wear that joint down. It's just not going to like it, right? So be careful of high and low reps. So where does that leave us? Like, what are we talking about? You just basically said high or low reps. What should we do? And I just said, don't do either one. So that leaves us with that middle rep range, that happy medium that I think, a lot of people sometimes just forget about it. They either don't want to go super heavy or do tons of volume, right? So go somewhere in the middle, and that could be anywhere from, say, 10 to 15 reps, maybe even as much as 20. You find that sweet spot, but say if you're not sure, 15 reps is a pretty nice happy medium where you're getting enough reps, it's not overdoing it, you're putting enough weight on the bar or whatever you happen to be using that you're going to feel it, right? Other things we need to do is, as we get older, we need to listen to our bodies. We need to take some more time off if necessary. Now, I'm not talking about overworking out, but sometimes, especially if you have injured areas, you just have to take time off. If you don't have an injury, we're going to heal up pretty good. It might take an extra day or so, but we tend to be pretty decent as we get older. We can still recover fairly good. All right, some tips to help you maximize your reps and sets. Again, intensity, in my opinion, is it's the most important thing. And I don't see enough people going intense enough in the gym. I see it just drives me nuts because I want to tell people sometimes, but I don't want to be that guy that's, telling people what to do in the gym. Nobody likes that guy, right? I don't want to be that guy, but I just hate to watch it. I'll see a full-on grown-ass man who's got a good physique. There's obviously nothing wrong with him. He's moving around great. He's using his back fine. He's not looking stiff or anything. And I'll see him just using, like, for instance, I'll use an example of this fellow, probably about the same size and build as me, and he was doing these 30-pound straight leg dumbbells. And he was doing sets of about 10 to 12, and he did probably 4 to 5 sets, and none of the reps looked hard at all. At the end of every set, it looked like the beginning of the set. So he was not pushing himself at all. To give you an example, I work my way up to 120 pounds per arms dumbbells when I do straight leg deadlifts. So I'm doing 4 times the amount as him. Now, I'm sure he could have at least doubled, if not tripled, his weight. And what he's doing in that workout is he's basically just moving weight around and getting a little bit of blood in his muscles. He is not training his muscles. So intensity, he did lots of reps, he did lots of sets, but he got no results. I guarantee you he got no results. So you need to push yourself, right? And sometimes, you have to go a little heavier. And sometimes you have to do a few less reps. But I like to build up to that. I don't like to jump into any high weight, low rep situation. There's pros and cons to both, right? I don't like to do low reps all the time. It would just be too hard on me, but every once in a while I like to get there. All right, so intensity, super important. Where am I at now on these notes? Don't be too jerky and bouncy. That's especially as you get older. We got to be careful with our bodies, okay? Every time I've torn something, it's been at the bottom stretch. It's been somewhere where I'm like where I've brought the bar down and I'm trying to get out of the hole. That's where I'm tearing stuff. It's never in the middle. It's never at the top. It's always in a stretch reflex situation. What I mean is, like, when you see people squat and they kind of go boom, and what's happening is your muscle becomes a spring. It's actually, you're coming into a negative and your muscle is tensioning and becoming a spring to give you drive out of the hole. And that's wonderful. That's fine and dandy if your muscles can handle it. You get a lot of extra torque out of the hole. But if your muscles they don't have that stretch reflex like you'd used to, as you get older, that happens, then you can tear. You overload your muscles. They don't become a spring. They just become a torn muscle, right? So that's something you got to be careful of. Don't be jerky and bouncy. Now, one thing that I like to do is when I do my rep, I'll bring it down fairly slow, almost pause at the bottom, and then I drive out of the hole. So I don't think that it's, I've read other things on it. I find that really pushing through the rep doesn't mean you start like crazy hard, but you want to get the bar moving nice and quick, right? So you come down slow, almost pause, and then drive. Come down slow, pause, and then drive. And that way, like if you're trying to drive really hard and it's not going anywhere, the bar is moving really slow, then you're probably at your max weight, right? If you're just always kind of bringing the bar up slow, it's hard to tell if you're at that max resistance, right? But if you're like going to push and it's not moving, you've gotten there, okay? So it's easier to judge, if you're tired or not. If you're just moving the bar constantly the same speed, it's hard to tell. So that's a good way to do it. Come down slow, almost pause, and then drive the bar or whatever. If you're pulling, sort of like if you're doing a pull, you'd get to the top, almost pause, and then pull hard down, and then go down slow, get to the top, pause, stretch it out a little bit, and then pull, right? Nice and crisp and firm. Get some speed into it, but not jerky. All right. Challenge yourself. Again, I'm talking about that whole thing. Don't just move weights up and down for the sake of getting volume, like that fellow I was talking about doing the straight leg deadlifts. I so wanted to talk to him. I just so wanted to say, what's going on? I'm like, do you have an injury or something? Maybe he did have an injury, but I've seen that type of that type of training over and over again in the gym. People just grab whatever weight, do the 20 to 30 reps, which is fine, but it's just like the first and last rep look just as easy, right? So avoid that situation. Challenge yourself, move the weights up and down, get them going, grab heavier weights all the time, push yourself. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit quickly, try and make this fast, about some of the ways I do things. Now, I've talked about all this, but one of the things that I do that's a little bit different than what I'm suggesting here is when I do compound movements, compound movements are deadlift, squat, bench press, and overhead press. These are sort of your powerlifting movements. Not so much overhead press, but I've categorized it in. But if you go to a powerlifting competition, it's going to be squat, deadlift, and bench press. Those are the three things. And they're compound movements because they engage a lot of your body, not just one muscle. They engage a lot of different areas. And so when I'm doing a compound movement, I'm training for strength, not just for the sake of growing muscles. I'm using that exercise as a measuring stick for how I'm doing. So I like to try and get stronger doing it. So I use powerlifting techniques when I train. So I'll train, I don't go down as low as 3 reps because I rarely go for 1 rep maxes. So I don't need to have my central nervous system all going super hard on those single reps or anything like that. So I'll usually train 5 reps, 8 reps, 10 reps. Those are the sort of the rep ranges I train for. So I'll train deadlifts. I'll work my way up to my heaviest weight, starting, at a lower weight, but doing 10 reps, say for instance, through all the sets, 4 or 5 sets that I'm doing. And then, I'll go as heavy as I can, say for instance, with 10 reps. If I'm doing 5 reps, I'll do 5 reps through the whole program till I get to my heaviest set, and I load the bar up with as much weight as I figure I can do 5 reps at the very last set. That'll be my max one. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll do like an end set where I'll just dump a lot of weight, like sometimes as much as half of it, and I'll do like 20 reps or something like that, like a 20 reps. Let's say if I got to say 365 on my squat for a couple reps or something like that, I was shoot for 5, I got 3 or whatever, then I would dump the weight down to 225 and I would do 20 reps at the end just to kind of really finish it off. And then a lot of times after I do a compound workout, I'll then go and do accessory work afterwards. And the accessory work is a little different. So for instance, if I did bench, I would do that same structure. I would do my bench press. I might do reps of 5. I might do reps of 8. I might do reps of 10. Every once in a while I'll throw in high reps, but not very often. And then I'll finish with accessory work for chest. So then after that chest bench press workout, I'll do my accessory work, which will be, sometimes I'll do some dumbbell press in an incline or something. Then I'll do some flies, either with the cables or with free weights. I might even do some dips. And I might even do some push-ups. But typically what I do is I start light for almost all my accessory work, including pull-ups, chin-ups. Even though those are a bit of a compound, I kind of tie them into accessory work category. What I do is I'll work my way up. I'll start out with about 15 reps, for my warm-up set, not go crazy heavy, just, get a good warm-up. My first working set will be my second set, and I'll probably shoot for about 12 to 14 reps, and I'll feel it. I'll start to feel like I'm feeling the muscles are getting there, but I'm not at all getting close to failure at all on the first set. Second working set, which is my third set, I'll shoot for somewhere around 10 reps, and the last, couple reps are going to be hard. They're getting really close to failure, but they're not there yet. On my fourth set, typically my last set, but sometimes I'll go 5 depending on how the weights are loaded up. But usually 4 sets is my last one, and I'll shoot for about 6 to 8 reps. I'll go as heavy as I can. My last 2 reps look like total utter crap usually because I put enough weight on that bar to make it super challenging. And sometimes if I'm doing a pull up, sometimes I won't get it all the way, but I'll try. I'll do my very best to try and finish that rep. But even if I don't, that's okay. I know I'm pushing myself. I know I couldn't do it. I went to failure. That's the important thing. And then I'll dump some weight off, like especially with the pulley system, cable system. I'll drop my pin and I'll do drop sets. And I'll drop it a lot because when I hit that last rep and I'm not getting it, my muscles are pretty much done. So even if I dump 4 or 5 plates off of that stack, it's still hard. The next round is still hard, and I still go to failure again. Then I'll dump another 4 or 5 plates, and I'm not even moving that much weight anymore, but it's still hard because of the drop set that I'm doing. So that's how I like to do accessory. You can still do drop sets with dumbbells and things, but it's a little easier when you're doing things like curls or you're standing in front of of the weight rack, but it's a little harder to do with flies because you can't have all the weights stacked around you. But if I can, I try to do drop sets whenever I'm doing accessory work. That's pretty much it. That's about all the advice I can give you in terms of rep ranges, what works, what doesn't work, what's good for older people over 40. Kind of in summary, don't go too heavy or too light unless you're training for all-out strength. If you're just training to get stronger, look better, build some muscle, you don't need to do the 5, 10, 5, 8, 10 rep ranges when you're doing compound movements. Just move the weight, stick into that, that 12 to 15 rep range. You should be pretty good, but don't go too heavy or too light, right? Avoid injuries on either end. Low reps and high reps can both cause injuries. So again, stick with the rep ranges that I've recommended between, I would say 10 to 15, but 15 is a nice one to stick with. And again, it's really not how long you work. It's not how long you spend in the gym. It's not how many sets you do. It's not how many reps you do. At the end of the day, it's how intense you are, how willing you are to push your limitations that's going to grow your muscles. Okay, that is the all-out most important thing. Forget reps, forget sets, forget forget time under tension. It's intensity, okay? So that's, again, the most important thing. And now, I have titled this video basically for over 40s, but the information I'm giving you is suitable for all ages. If you're a younger person and you're training and you want to avoid injuries, again, stay away from the low reps, stay away from the super high reps. I think those can wear on younger people as well. It just affects older people a little bit more. All right, that wraps up this video. We're getting a little bit long here as usual. Thanks for watching another GetFitOver40.com video. Don't forget to subscribe. Check me out on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, take care.